My dope people, what up, what up, what up? Hope all is well. Sending y'all much positive energy. First of all, happy Friday to you all. I am on my morning walk, and someone inspired me to do stuff like this. This is how I'll probably do it on YouTube as well. And shout out to Comedic Center Living, because I was sitting there thinking like, dang, I be wanting to go live on YouTube, but I don't know, man. I just haven't been feeling it, not in regards to YouTube, but I'm gonna start going live on YouTube a little bit more, all right, and just see what happens with it. That sun is shining today. Oh my gosh, no filter. So, with that being said, what I'm talking about today, I want to talk about perception, right? Perception means everything. I mean, it means a lot, for real. Now, what I mean by perception, because I used to be in the military, and there is this quote, perception is reality. But when we hear that phrase, I believe, at least, and I could be wrong about this, but I looked at it as a perception of other people. What did it look like you were doing, right? In comparison to what you were actually perceiving everything around you to not only be, but how you were perceiving things to happen. I think that's the key difference when we're talking about perception. Because when I heard that term, perception is reality, in terms of hearing it, or in terms of believing it meant how others perceive you, and not perceive you, not in regards to your personality and things along those lines, but when you working at your job and stuff like that, and you want to act like you're working, so people don't be asking you to do more stuff, and people don't, and you just be wanting your peace, so you be like, man, let me just act like I'm working, even though I may not really be working, So when you perceive, the way you look at how other people perceive you was how I took that. I took that as, hey, how other people perceive you is how you really are. And that's simply not true. I mean, it's really as simple as that. That's not true. And I know right now it's hard to see me in some instances because of the sun, so my apologies, okay? Maybe I could do it this way. I don't know. I'm gonna do my best, y'all. But this is the first of these videos going on YouTube. 313 on the timer, as I said. So with that being said, what had the shift for me was truly and genuinely how I perceive reality and what reality really was. And that's where I think that's a key too, right? Is what is reality? And if I'm being honest, we don't necessarily know that, but I can tell you one thing: this physical realm we are in is not reality. It's just a reflection of it. It's a feedback. It gives you feedback on what your perception is and how you should shift it. All right, let me give you an example. Say that, and I'll actually give you an example based off of how I used to view this thing, right? View this. When you play yourself down, it's not your job to play yourself down to other people and make people comfortable around you. You have to be in your authentic energy and yourself, so you attract the right people at all times. Now, what happens is we would get around people, and sometimes people will be insecure. There's a multitude of things. They could be insecure. They can not like themselves. They can be miserable. It could be a bunch of things, right? And when you get around these people, your body will usually tense up a little bit, and you'll tend to not be who you truly are in the most authentic way around these people. And that happens, or that it would, the way you would know that is when you wouldn't say the things you would normally say, right? Like you'll sit there, you'll want to say something, and then there'll be like a little inkling to be like, hey, you may not want to say that, but you're really meant to say that. You're meant to always be your most authentic self. I'm not saying that you shouldn't, read the rooms and stuff like that. That's kind of different. But be your most authentic self. And when you are, you won't necessarily have to read the room, if that makes sense, okay? But the way this will reflect is, say you're insecure about, let's say, your sexuality. You know what I'm saying? If you're insecure about your sexuality and you're not making peace with that, what'll happen is you'll run into people, or you'll be reading a book, you'll run into people, you'll be watching shows. It could show up in a numerous amount of ways. But the polarity, the opposite, would be reflecting back to you that energy. You know what I'm saying? So you need to come at terms with that. And like, say for example, again, let's say you're into polygamy, or let's say you're thinking about polygamy. You know what I'm saying? What'll happen is, if you're thinking about it, you'll be watching the show, and then someone will mention polygamy. They'll be like, hey, I'm thinking about this. How do you feel about this? Boom, boom, boom. And then the other person may say some negative shit about polygamy. But that is a reflection off of, it's a synchronicity. Again, it's giving you feedback based on what you're actually thinking about, you're subconsciously thinking about. And depending on what that person says, kind of gives you more detailed feedback on how you really feel about it. All right. And that's how reality really works, because at a high level, when I say reality, I use that interchangeably right now, just for clarity purposes. But when I say reality, I'm using it interchangeably with the physical. I'll say reality, I'll say the physical, but reality is way more than the physical. Most of what we see isn't reality. It's just a reflection of it. Hence why I'm talking about feedback. All right. So when you're seeing a lot of feedback from your physical reality within certain, topics or things that you've been thinking about, you take that feedback, you process that information, right? And I can't really tell you how to do that. It depends on your astrology and stuff like that. Like, I do astrology, I'm an astrologist. I'm really a spiritualist, but astrology is something I do within that category because I love astrology. Astrology got me out of a dark place, you feel me? So I genuinely love astrology. Astrology, numerology, human design, neuroplasticity. I'm very, very heavily engulfed in ancient Egypt, the Kemetic ways of living. I'm really into that, and I am shifting my personal perception and the way I live based off of the Kemetic teachings, right? Because it was not only so profound, but I really resonate with the principles and the foundational understanding of how they view religion, spirituality, and things along those lines. So first and foremost, I want to make sure I put this out there. I'm not religious at all, not even a little bit. I'm spiritual. I do believe in that higher, God. But again, I think where a lot of people do get it confused is, I don't necessarily, first of all, when I say I pray, I do pray, but I do it in a very specific way, number one. And number two is, there's no difference between me and God. I am a God, period. And I acknowledge that. So I'm creating my reality based off of that. And whether I want to call it universe, sometimes you'll hear me call that source God. Sometimes you'll hear me say source. Sometimes you'll hear me say creator. Sometimes you'll hear me say universe. It's the same energy no matter what. Sometimes you'll hear me say Neter, because the Neter is a supreme being, and the Neter is a term used by ancient Kemet when they were referring to God, right? That supreme being, that source. So you'll hear me use a multitude of terms. I'm never really just going to use one. Let me just make that clear. But yeah, just back to the perception of things. You have to pay attention to reality or you have to pay attention to this physical realm and the feedback that you get, because it gives you very profound information on how you have to shift your perception. All right. So I didn't want to make this a long video. I just wanted to talk about perception and things along those lines. And I wanted to talk about, I'm gonna talk about a lot of things on this channel, okay? It's gonna be perception. It's gonna be neuroplasticity. Again, I study neuroplasticity. I study, really not even just neuroplasticity, neuroscience. Etymology is a thing that I'm studying as well. A lot of different things, to be honest, man. It's like endless education and knowledge, but you have to apply that knowledge. And that's why my business is named Applied Ascension, because the whole goal is to ascend into and become in union with your higher self. And we gain knowledge, but if you're not utilizing and practically applying the knowledge that you are gaining, then what are you gaining that knowledge for? Hence why I say applied, applicable. It has to be applicable and you have to apply it. All right, but with that being said, I love y'all, man, my dope people. I'm sending everyone positive energy, and look for more of these. I'm gonna be posting these or whatever, and we'll see where it goes. But again, I love y'all. Sending y'all positive energy. Take a deep breath with me to become present, because at the end of the day, it's a gift. Feel me? I love y'all. Yo.